It's This Week in Real Pirateball, documenting the 2011 Pittsburgh Pirates baseball season. And here's your host, Greg Mercer.
What's up, everybody? I'm Greg Mercer, and I'm back with This Week in Real Pirateball for week number 10 of the 2011 Pittsburgh Pirates baseball season. Let's go ahead and get into it right now. This week's top story involves the 2011 MLB Draft. Let me break it down for you this way.
War room is where we are, and a team is what we're crafting. Commish Bud Selig said, number one is where you're drafting. The hurlers' agents frown, cause they all want a bonus fee. A budget set and we're still in debt, said Nutty ING. Pearl is Bubba Starlin, and Rendon's shoulder is Fubar. Bunny thinks our long toss stunk, Danny Holtzen is no star. So I thought hard and mulled over, till Bud decided to squealer. He asked me now, who is your guy? I said Garrett Cole Vanilla. Garrett Cole Vanilla.
Even though Garrett Cole did not have a great season at UCLA, the Pirates are confident that his high-velocity fastball, good slider, and plus changeup will make him a top-of-the-rotation starter. The Pirates system now has two extremely high-caliber arms in Cole and Jamison Tyone. Still, I see two possible problems for the Bucks. I still don't see all that many top offensive prospects coming in the near future. Also, pitchers have a much higher rate of catastrophic injuries, so putting all their eggs into the pitching basket is still a slightly risky strategy. This was a costly week for the Pirates in terms of injuries. Evan Meek once again went to the disabled list, and it was discovered yesterday that he has a small tear in his labrum, which is never a good sign. Third baseman Pedro Alvarez suffered a setback in his rehab from a strained quad muscle. These lingering injuries are starting to look like they could be season-threatening ones. Speaking of which, Pirates catcher Chris Snyder re-injured his back while trying to stretch out a single to a double against the D-backs this week. He had back surgery and will probably be done for the year. Dusty Brown is now the main catcher and some dude named Wyatt Torregas is the backup. Neil Huntington may have to look into acquiring a catcher from another team in the coming weeks if Brown and Torregas can't carry the load.
Scott Leach and Derek Poundstone! Poundstone moving well!
I wanted to pose a question to the watchers of Twerp this week in order to get you involved in the show. The starting pitcher's ERA is 3.68, which is ninth best in the majors. But here's my question. How is this happening?
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Okay, I understand that Charlie Morton's delivery was completely changed, which has turned him into a ground ball machine. But other than him, does anyone have empirical data to determine exactly what the pitchers are doing differently this year?
You're not thinking fourth dimensionally.
In my view, last year the starter's plan was to pitch to contact, induce ground balls, and get outs. Unfortunately, that resulted in plenty of hits and runs scored. This year, the goal is the same, but for whatever reason, they're getting the outs. If you have any good insight or data that can help me figure this out, leave me a comment or message on Twitter @MercerBoy, and I'll highlight your thoughts next week. First baseman Lyle Overbay was criticized heavily over the first 2 months of the season for his lack of offensive ability and declining defensive skill. In the past 2 weeks, Overbay has slowly started to pick up the pieces of his season. His defense is still not up to par with previous years, but he's had a couple of 6-game hitting streaks and has 8 doubles since May 1st, which has raised his slugging percentage by 60 points. as though Pirates fans are cursed to have a first baseman who starts ridiculously slow and then starts to pick it up around the time when the team normally starts losing a bunch of games. Hopefully Overbay will be able to focus and use his veteran experience to contribute in games that may actually mean something in the coming weeks.
This means something. This is important.
Seriously, how good has Joel Hanrahan been this year?
And Captain Jack will get you high tonight and take you to your special island.
The Pirates closer continues to perform at an elite level this season. He's 16 for 16 in save opportunities with a 1.52 ERA and 1.08 WHIP. His fastball velocity continues to be in the upper 90s, and his breaking pitches are about as nasty as it can get.
Nasty, nasty boys, give me your nasty groove. Oh, you nasty boys.
I don't see how Hanrahan could be kept off the National League All-Star roster this year. However, some fans are starting to wonder if Hanrahan may be a trade deadline chip for Neil Huntington. I don't see the Pirates trading him away unless an established young major league talent is involved. Joel is still under club control for 2 years, and if the Pirates start to look more and more like a playoff team next year, they'll need a stopper who can shut the opposition down in the 9th inning in close games.
W, please?
No. That's a stopper? Yeah.
At the beginning of the season, left fielder Jose Tabata looked like he was on his way to having another great season at the plate. Unfortunately, in subsequent weeks, it seemed as though he'd been hit in the head and forgot how to swing the bat.
It Canseco in the head and bounced over the wall for a homer. Look at this.
I was really afraid that my early season prediction was coming true and that Jose was trying too hard to hit for power. Luckily, in the past few weeks, Tabata seems to have figured something out. He had 3 multi-hit games this week and has raised his average from 241 to 268 in the last 10 days. I really like how Tabata seems to be placing the ball where he wants to once again, and he isn't trying to kill the ball. I really don't have a problem with Tabata's lack of power as long as he's patient at the plate, hits the ball where he wants to, and draws walks. I think he's an ideal number 2 hitter, but with the Pirates lineup in the shape that it's in, he's better suited to setting the table for more powerful hitters.
Tricks on the china never mattered before. Who cares when you drop kicked your jacket as you came through the door? No one glared.
The Pirates played a 3-game series against Arizona this week at PNC Park and won another series against an above 500 team. On Tuesday, the Pirates rallied in the 8th inning to score 5 runs in an 8-5 win. D-backs interim manager Alan Trammell inexplicably left reliever David Hernandez in the game after being hit hard early in the inning, and a bases-clearing double by Lyle Overbay finally sunk the Snakes. Wednesday's 3-2 win was a pitcher's duel between former Pirate Zach Duke and Paul Mahone, and became a game to remember as Andrew McCutchen hit a walk-off homer in the 12th inning. On Thursday, the Pirates were shut out 2-0, and the only offense in the game was an 8th inning homer by Arizona's Chris Young. The Pirates are in the midst of a 4-game wraparound series with the Mets. On Friday, the Pirates were pummeled 8-1 in the first blowout loss for the Pirates in nearly a month. Charlie Morton had a rare bad outing, and the Bucs' offense was once again stifled by Mets hurler Dylan G. On Saturday, the Pirates won 3-2 in a quick 2.5-hour game. James McDonald escaped numerous jams, and the top 3 hitters of the order went 5 for 10 and did just enough to spoil a complete game from R.A. Dickey. Joel Hanrahan pitched a perfect 9th for his 16th save. I'll highlight the second half of this series next week. What do I think about the Pirates this week? I think it's increasingly apparent that this team, although very weak in the offensive department, is a totally different team than last year. If the starters can hold the fort as the Pirates deal with injuries at the catcher position and at least get average hitting from the bottom part of the order, there's no reason the Bucs can't stay near the 500 mark. As you know, I'm a realistic fan and it takes a lot for me to get excited, but even I'm having a tough time holding back the urge to start cheering for this club. Still, there are just under 100 games to go and things could turn south at any moment, especially if the pitchers start to struggle. Next week could be the first of the most important 3 weeks of the year. After 3 games against the Astros, the Pirates have 3 games with the Indians to start a 12-game interleague stretch. Well, that about does for this week. Make sure you come back next week for another edition of This Week in Real Pirateball. I'm Greg Mercer. Later.